In F1, everyone wants to win. Yes, it is hard to believe that even teams like Alpine actually want to win and not sit in 10th and not be in a competition to build the worst car possible each season. However, in some seasons, some teams just end up running away with the championship. In 1988, we had McLaren winning by 135 points on the old point system. Incredible. In 2016, we had Mercedes win by 297 points. 2023, Red Bull, we had 451 points difference. And so far in 2025, it looks like this season McLaren are going to do the exact same thing, potentially now winning the championship in Singapore the next race up, as they are already leading the constructors by 333 points. But with this situation, a lot of us tend to forget that there is still some great battles going on around the championship throughout the full grid. As take this for instance, what if I was to tell you for second place in the championship right now, there is an 18-point gap between Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull. It may not be for the championship, but my oh my, is it getting very, very close between these three teams. And honestly, whoever ends up winning it is anyone's guess right now. We will just have to wait and find out. But let's have a look at all of these teams individually. And then after this, I will try to give my final verdict on who is going to get second in the Constructors' Championship for one last time in F1 in 2025. Now, for me, we have to start off with Ferrari, as 100% they have the least amount of form, the least amount of momentum heading their way than the rest of the other three. Now, every team of course has their ups and downs throughout the season. Mercedes have had quite a few DNFs. Red Bull have had tracks where they're just really not suited to it, and the second driver issue has basically made them not get second place. However, Ferrari for me stands out so much because they should be sitting comfortably this season as it's gone so far in second place, as they're the only team in these three that actually have two experienced, mature drivers in their car of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. And the things that Ferrari are just going through, whether it be driver related or Ferrari themselves, is just something that shouldn't be happening as a constructor. We've had the China double disqualification. That took off 18 points from them. We've had Leclerc's crash before the sprint race in Miami. That took away his chance to score points. That could have been around 2-ish points added. You've had Silverstone again with Leclerc, a terrible strategy call going straight into the pits before the race started. He lost out on a handful of points there as well, and potentially around 8 points if he ended up where he qualified. You then also had Hungary again for Leclerc. Just terrible setup for him, and a bad strategy from Ferrari meant that he dropped from first place after the pit stops all the way down to 4th. Now, if we're being nice to Mercedes and Red Bull, let's just say he lost 3 points from this, because at the end of the day, he should have beaten Russell. Netherlands, you had double DNF, whether it be for driver issues or for other drivers crashing into them. And finally, now, in the last race we had Baku, where in qualifying, Lewis Hamilton just completely underperformed in Q2, and then Charles Leclerc ended up crashing in Q3, qualifying 10th, completely scrapping any points they could have realistically got in the top 5. And where they ended, it looks like, you can't say for certain, but let's say they lost around 4-ish points, if we're being conservative with that approach. This all tallies to around 49 points that they have lost throughout the season because of these issues, whether it be driver related or Ferrari related. And no other team is in that position, not even Mercedes with the Antonelli DNFs. Red Bull with the driver issues, that's always been the case. So it's just when every other team has some issues. Again, to reiterate, Ferrari, everyone and myself included at the start of the season thought that they had the best driver pairing of Leclerc and Hamilton. How are they not getting the best out of this for the constructors right now? Now, from Ferrari, this isn't anything new. We know what Ferrari are like, so I'm not surprised with all of their bad strategy calls and all of this. It's just painful to see for any Ferrari fans out there, because it's clear as day they should be second place in the Constructors' Championship, and everything just keeps not going their way. It's clearly shown as all of these blunders have now dropped them from second place to third place, being overtaken by Mercedes. They are now 4 points behind Mercedes, and considering just 4 races ago heading into Hungary, they had a 28-point gap. It is ridiculous how that has gone instantly, and Ferrari seems to have the edge and could potentially pull out a lead on Mercedes. Now, I actually won't talk about Mercedes next because I really want to talk about Red Bull, the second constructor of the 3. the most exciting of the bunch. Ever since they have brought in that new floor in Monza, they have been literally flying. It is incredible. Now, we have only been at tracks like Monza and Baku with this new floor, so we're still yet to test it at a high downforce circuits like Singapore, so we'll see how they do. That will really describe how the rest of the season will go for them as Red Bull as a whole, if Verstappen can get into the top 3 or if Yuki can finish in the top 10. This turnaround is absolutely phenomenal. If we go from Hungary again, but let's go from after Hungary where they had a stinker of a race, they were 66 points behind Ferrari. And now, after back-to-back wins for Verstappen, Yuki getting his best finish in Red Bull of a P6, they've been able to get that gap down to 18 points to second Mercedes and 14 points to Ferrari. How have Ferrari let Red Bull, who basically are getting hard carried by Verstappen, catch up by 42 points? It could not be understated right now just how incredible Verstappen has been this season so far and how good he's been since the second half of the season. He has been the highest scoring driver, even ahead of the McLarens, since the summer break. That's how good he has been. However, like I did mention earlier on, with Singapore coming up, it does look like it could be a little harder to finish second in the constructors, purely because we have seen that Red Bull tends to not be as good at tracks like this. I think Yuki, he won't have as good of a performance as in Baku. However, if Verstappen can just keep on terms with the Mercedes and the Ferrari, then he could potentially put them into a fight. Because at the end of the day, there are also tracks like Vegas coming up, Mexico, etc., where the Red Bull car should be good again. And if Verstappen can get wins at these circuits, that's all Red Bull will need to put them into this fight again. So definitely for me, the most exciting team out of the bunch to look out for where they finish. However, it is going to be tough for them to get second because it is Verstappen and co. So it's really going to be hard. But if anyone can do it, it's bloody Verstappen, isn't it? And now for the final team, the silent team, the team working in the shadows. And my oh my, is it proven right how they are all of a sudden back in second place in the constructors again. Now the gap is small, but Mercedes, wow, oh wow, they have just been phenomenal again, getting the most out of that car. Places like Canada, where they had the fastest car, they made sure they got the most points out of it. Even at places where Ferrari have looked like they've had good cars, they've made sure they've kept on terms with them. And after a little bit of an underwhelming performance in the middle part of the season with Monaco, Austria, etc., they really have pulled their socks up and pushed them right back into this championship fight for second. Antonelli has just come off a 4th place in Baku. Again, such a well-deserved position he's ended and a position he really needed to finish in. This is the first time since Canada he has been back in the top 5, and from Austria to Italy he'd only managed to score 3 points. So these were much needed points for Antonelli to get back ahead of Alex Albon, and much needed points to help out Mercedes in the constructors. And then do I even need to mention this man? Whether you love him or hate him, Mr. Consistent George bloody Russell. He has also been one of the outstanding drivers of this season so far. Get this, we'll talk about a few of his results, but he is one of only 2 drivers to still not have had a DNF this season so far. The other, well, he's the GOAT of F1, that would be Lance Stroll. My GOAT, my GOAT. Like, it's a real hard toss-up between Stroll and Latifi for the GOAT, but, you know, just appreciate both of them. But back to his consistency on actual point scoring as well. There's a reason he gets that name. He got 2nd place in Baku, 5th place in Monza, 4th in Zandvoort, 3rd in Hungary, and he's had 14 finishes in the top 5 this season so far. Bear in mind, we've only had 17 races. Not points finishing positions, top 5 positions. Bear in mind, that's battling with Verstappen, both McLarens and both Ferraris, who realistically are always looking good for a top 5. It's so incredible from him. He has been so phenomenal this season. He is up there for best of the best this season so far. I think it is between him, Alex Albon and Max Verstappen for the best in the season so far. But because of all of these brilliant results, it has so much helped Mercedes that the momentum is pushing in their favour. And like I mentioned, they are now second in the Constructors' Championship. Which now brings me on to the final part of the video, giving my verdict on the whole situation. Where will all of these 3 teams finish in the season? Now, Red Bull, they will come second plus another 2. They will come 4th place. Now, I do think Verstappen's going to help them. It's going to be very, very close between all three teams. But I just don't think there's enough Verstappen can do it just by himself. And I don't think Yuki's going to be replicating those Baku results every single weekend, which is where Mercedes and Ferrari can pick off points or keep an eye on Verstappen when he does get those 25 points for a win. So for me, I think it's too much to ask for Red Bull. They will finish 4th. Then Ferrari, they will finish... Yep. Ferrari will finish 3rd place. Now, the reason for this is slightly also because I'm sticking to my guns on Mercedes, but also just because you can't factor in enough Ferrari just being Ferrari. The amount of blunders they've had this season, they haven't performed when the car was there when they needed to. I just don't see another race where they will be favourites for a race win, and considering we have races where I think Verstappen could win, Mercedes could win, I just think Ferrari are going to struggle to finish ahead of Mercedes right now. And that's why Mercedes finished 2nd. One race is going to get them it. It's going to be the Vegas GP. They're going to have another Canada sort of situation like in 2024 as well, where they outperformed in the Vegas Grand Prix. Watch it. It's a night race. They love that circuit. I really do think it's really, really looking good for them. Now, also because I said all the way back from Spain that Mercedes would get 2nd in the Constructors' Championship, and I have to stick with them now. It's too late to not say otherwise. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching this video. Comment down below, who do you think is going to come 2nd, 3rd, 4th? Because I'm telling you, someone could have the complete opposite to me with Red Bull 2nd, Ferrari 3rd, Mercedes 4th. Anything of those sort of variations, and I would be able to see their side of the argument, because it's gonna be like a few points separating them at the end of the season. Trust me on how close it's gonna get. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on, considering McLaren are so far away. But thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video today, and make sure to have a great rest of your day. Take care, everyone.